Hey there, everyone. I've switched over I've switched over our streaming platform, so I have to get used to a new one because there's been a slight budget cut, a temporary slight budget cut. So let us get this stream URL. Hey Shui, how are you doing? You can start dropping in any questions that you have into the chat right now. Let me make the thing my webcam. Over to the Discord. No matter how much pre-setup I do, the first couple minutes of the stream are always a little bit disorienting. And I'm gonna have to take this streaming setup to a whole different country pretty soon, which is the interesting news that I have to share as well. So let's go to YouTube. And let's share the stream over in the Discord chat for everyone. Everyone, be a part live. And I have to send this personally to someone who also requested. Okay, let me plug in the laptop. Let me have a look at how is the progress with your physical changes, Shui's asking. So I'm going to cover this in just a second, but I've essentially located that my sticking point is the cerebellum at the back, right? So the tentorium cerebelli. And that is what keeps the right side imbalanced. The number one things are just increased symmetry, increased breathing capacity, better side profile. And now that we're at the level of really getting into the tentorium and finding out what's restricting it, the physical changes are happening pretty rapidly as well. Let me plug in the laptop. I brought over a skull model as well, so that we can get an idea of what's going on inside the skull. Now, I did see somebody who's in the Discord group had sent me their own personal physical changes, and I was quite impressed with them. There's a combination of their own tongue posture, their own mewing, combined with craniosacral therapy, and their symmetry had improved decently. Let me look over the notes here. So one thing, we're going to start with the Q&A, just basically what did people want answered, and then we're going to move on to the tongue and the hyoid to get that movement going. And then I'm going to go over the modules of the course. So what we have set up, I've got 3 modules. So the first 2 are things that everyone's heard about already, and people are making good progress on the first 2. The 3rd module is where I'm at, and that's where I need to get everyone to. Anyone who needs to be doing mewing or physical correction or mental correction really as well. Because I've been working with people that have like meningitis and stuff like that as well. So that 3rd module is the type of proprioception that I need people to get to. I'm going to explain my current tentorium issue. So that's what I've located. I've located where the tightness is. It's inside the skull. So you have the falx cerebri. I was going to switch screens, but we'll go into that shortly. And also my entire case is going to be available. Like I have the scans and all that sort of thing. And so I'm going to post those up shortly for everyone who's in the membership already. Now, the lifetime membership is going to end at the end of this month. And then the price is going to go way up because That lifetime membership was to get everyone who's been following thus far, to give them a chance to get into this before it goes to the general public. Hey, Silver Smurfer. And yeah, so that lifetime membership's going to end on the 30th because um, the sheer amount of volume of stuff, like I have a whole notebook here of what's going to be in the course. So someone's asking if the scans show changes. The scans are from before. So yeah, the scans are from when I had AGA treatment and earlier. So and pictures as well from before. So that would be sharing that case. Um, the physical changes are happening and happening quite rapidly, but I do think that I want everyone to catch up to this point, and it's not the body can only move so quickly. So you'll get things like deeper set eyes or like a more balanced cranium and more symmetry in your cranium, wisdom teeth, like the teeth hurting and realigning and coming in. And the full change, I'm thinking that we might have to do something like fasting to really kickstart the change quickly. But I'm convinced that this is the link. You know, when you see good results, there's a lot of good results, obviously, on the Great Work site and across the internet, and you see them only in younger people. Younger people, and then the older people that do show results, they've always shown it as a way of like massive force or massive chewing. So it's their sutures that are open. Now, what we've talked about so far is first off that your fascial system gets restricted and tight over time, and that you can breathe into the system to open it. And then by module 2, it's the fact that you can breathe with all of your muscles in order to open up the body. Yeah, Silver Smurfer, you're at a good time to figure this out because your sutures are still more mobile, but 17 is when they do start to grow rigid. And that's why I think some people get the changes and some people don't. And what our method is it goes along with everything else. So no matter what you're doing, you're going to need to get those sutures open and mobile again. And a lot of people in the Discord and a lot of people we're working with have gotten the cracks, they've gotten the pops, they've gotten the searing feeling along their sutures that is the movement restarting, and that is needed to get any progress, no matter what you're doing. How about the emotional, mental, and spiritual changes? Immense, immense. I'm actually incredibly I want to cater to what the community wants to hear about. But those are some of the best. Like my life has changed entirely. I'm now going to the east. I'm taking a major risk in my life. Like I'm leaving my job and everything to really explore this topic in depth. Um, and doing it pretty much fearlessly. This is not something I could have done before. I don't even recognize myself from a couple years ago, and neither do other people. Like people who used to know me from earlier in my life, that they see a complete change. The physical change, I know, really want that. Um, I think it's one of the last things to come. It's building that awareness, but again, as I'll speak to later um, in the live stream, that if you can nail down where your tightness is, where your restriction is, then you can pop that right back open. I've nailed mine down to the tentorium cerebelli, back right, and that's the thing that's keeping my I can feel it all the way through here on the interior of the skull, that is keeping all of that from expanding. You can push as hard as you want with your tongue. You can, this is called the dura mater, right? It's called the tough mother. That's literally what it translates to. And it's a very tough fascial sheath. So no matter what you do, if that sheath is still constricted, it's all going to relapse. And that's what happens with mewing. You know, people do the hard tongue posture and it works. They get the diastema, they get openings happening, and then they go to sleep or something and it just relapses again. My hypothesis is that those people that really do legitimately get those changes, they have the fascial sheath that allows for it, essentially. Um, NCR won't free that last bit up. It will get the bones moving. NCR is good for getting those bones unjammed, those sutures unjammed. Like we said, we need the sutures moving because that's what triggers the bone growth in them. But if the tentorium cerebelli, I think it's a good time for me to switch over. I had notes of how I'm going to do the live stream and I just totally abandoned them. So the tentorium cerebelli, it connects your entire skull together. You can see, and basically, it's not even your brain's not in that little hole in the middle. Your brain's throughout the whole thing. So this goes deep into your brain as well. And if this tissue is tight, and it is by design, it's never supposed to be really loose. It is a very, very tough membrane that surrounds and protects your skull, surrounds and protects your central nervous system. And this is cranial sacral theory. I feel the need to lean on other people that have come before me a lot to give myself some credence about. It's not entirely my theory. It's the theory I'm taking from others that if this is where the tension in the body really gets stored. And when this releases, then the skull can expand and open. Then the cranial base can expand and open. If you can imagine that even you get surgery. People get surgery to expand the maxilla area. Um, the neurocranial restructuring only goes so far because you can only adjust the bones a little bit. It's really this that's calling the shots. This is the very center of your spinal system, your nervous system. This is the first part where it goes from liquid to solid, essentially. Your cerebrospinal fluid is the liquid part, and that's what Sutherland and the cranial sacral therapists who started the whole theory, they said that the impulse, the breath of life, goes through the fluids. And the first place that it manifests physically is in the dura mater and places like that. I'm skipping way ahead of what I plan to do, but like this is Sutherland's fulcrum. This is known in the cranial sacral theory as the fulcrum where the tension in all of the body gets balanced and maintained. And it's just an interesting fact that like where it ends is pretty much this is the tentorium cerebelli, right? So that's at the back of your head here. And where that ends is pretty much where the pineal gland ends. Where that is pretty much where the bindu in the Hindu philosophies, they say that that's where the physical manifestation of the body starts. A lot of things really line up here. And I find that amazing. Those are things that we're probably going to relegate to the third part of the course, third module, because right now where people are at, not most people, I think, enough people that I'm comfortable moving forward understand that you have fascial tension in your body. That fascial tension has a lot of emotional weight and a lot of trauma and that sort of things as components of it. You can breathe in to find out where that tension is and release it. And the second module is that full body breathing. So to get the SCM muscles and everything active in there. Here, let me skip over, not skip. Let me move over to the fact that your meninges. I like to look up sources for here because of the fact that I'm not the only one saying this. I think I'm just one of the first people to really put it together in a really good way for people who want dental, physical, spinal, skull correction. For us, one of the first people to put it together in a really good, digestible way. Otherwise, all of these parts have been talked about in other places. So, like, this person has talked about the fact that these meninges, you can see, because I talk about breathing with the trapezius muscle and the cervical muscle is here. You can see that they're pretty much an extension of the nuchal line, and that's essentially, if you can breathe with that, you can get up into the skull as well instead of breathing with your meninges. And that's what really module 3 is going to be about. Uh, I need to see that everyone is at the proprioception level, that they can feel the skull bones moving on the outside Once you can feel them moving on the outside, then we can move to the inside. Skip ahead, not skip ahead. We're going all over the place at this point, so let's just go with the flow. I want you to see here. This is probably shouldn't have taken this apart before the lecture, but this is the back of your head right here. This will make more sense if I add in the front of the head to the heads here. Jeez, I shouldn't have taken the whole thing apart beforehand. The important part here is that this is your occiput, right? I think the light might be washing it out a bit. So let me adjust the lighting. Can everyone see that? Might still be washed out a bit too much. There we go. Okay. So this is your occiput, the back of your head. So this is where your occiput balances on the spine. And this is where those trapezius muscles and the SCM muscles, come up here on the side. And this is where they latch into. So when I tell everyone that we're doing the SCM breathing, we're doing that occiput breathing and getting this area moving again. Because if the muscles attach up into here on this ridge, I really wish the camera was doing a better job. But if they attach up onto this ridge and they pull down, then that'll get your cranial motion restarted. That's the point where a lot of people are at. They can feel the pops and cracks, and they can get it going through their sphenoid, which attaches like so. And they can get it going through their sphenoid, and then they can feel it in their face and in their frontal bones. We've had one-on-one sessions with people where they can't get the motion, they can't get the feeling, and then I work through it with them. It takes about an hour, and by the end of it, they can get that feeling of they're breathing with their SCM muscles, and they're feeling the occiput rotate, and then they're feeling, oh my god, I can feel it in my temple. Why can they feel it in their temple? Because it connects through the sphenoid bone, the SBJ. And that's the point everyone needs to get to before the course. Because the course, now have a look at this. I'm not sure why this is washing out so much. Let's try to adjust the lighting once more. Hopefully that's better. Okay. So you see this is the outside ridge where those muscles connect. Your sternocleidomastoid muscles go into the temporal bones and all that over here. Now, on the exact opposite side, on the inside, this would have been, okay. On the inside, this ridge right here, you see that? That's where your tentorium cerebelli is. It's on the exact, it's like a one-to-one relate, like I'm literally holding both of them at once. And you see like there's a cross here, there's a cross pattern. So this is your tentorium cerebelli, and this is your falx cerebri. Those are those meninges that that's what that is, right? And those essentially form in your head, they essentially form like a triangle in your head. And if that's tight, you're not getting any movement. Like no matter what you do, no matter how hard you move, no matter what face mask you use, no matter how much movement you have in your skull bones, even if those meninges are tight, your movement's not going to go anywhere. And I just picked a bunch of examples of how cool it looks. That basically you have this structure in the head that's essentially just a triangle. That's where the straight sinus is, Sutherland's fulcrum. That's where they found out that the tension is really stored. And this is a picture of the back of your head. Can you picture your head, if these are tight, if these are constricted, can you picture the rest of your head moving? It's just not gonna. It's just gonna fold back in on itself. For me, this right one here is tight. And where does that go? It goes to It goes up and it attaches over on the temporal bones, and it attaches to basically the back of your sphenoid, so your cheekbones and that sort of area, and it'll pull those backwards and down if it's not loose enough, if it's hitched on something essentially. No. I just went off my own thing, so let's check the chat real quick, and then we'll go to my notes and we'll actually do the stream the way that I had planned to do it. Yeah, so somebody doesn't want to spam this, but have you heard about tongue labs? I'm actually interested in your opinion that a nightwear that goes on your maxilla, which is supposed to train your tongue. I've not heard of them. Tongue labs. We'll look that up right now, actually. I'm happy to. Somebody asked how tall I am. I'm 6'1". I'm thinking, I'm fine with my height, but like, I'm thinking that just the fact that if you have tightness in your meninges, you have tightness throughout your spine and your body, then you have to be hiding height in there somewhere. So, tongue labs, every breath matters. This is fascinating. I've saved this. Okay, I've saved this, and if you're in the Discord, you can stay tuned in the Discord. I'm going to read this right after the stream, and I'll let you know what I think about it. Why I love doing this as a community, I love doing this as a group, because I'm almost completely certain when we go and look at what they're doing, we're going to find that they're probably talking about something similar to what we're talking about. Every time someone has linked me something, it's been somebody saying almost the same thing as we're talking about. But the thing is, we're probably the first group to really connect it all together. And because not everyone knew that, skulls were underground. It doesn't focus, yeah. Let me try. Yeah, I was really hoping that would focus, but we'll go through it again just now. We're 20 minutes in, so we can, now that I've decently covered almost everything, I can cover it quickly again. And if I can't get it to focus, I'll show you a picture. Q&A continues. So I wanted to talk about the tongue and the hyoid connection. So what people should be doing with their tongue and how that plays into, because we're still getting a lot of questions about the tongue. Where do you put the tongue? What does putting the back of your tongue up mean? So your tongue muscles, rather than look at it from the inside of your mouth, look at it from your throat. So your tongue starts about here. That's your hyoid, right? Try to pull your hyoid muscle, your hyoid bone. Try to pull your hyoid back. That's what it means to get the back of your tongue up. Not the part that's in your mouth, the part that goes into the throat. This is what John Mew says, by the way. I'm not completely deviating from the Mews. This is what John Mew says. The part that's in your throat. So find your hyoid bone, find the part that's just above it, and try to pull that backwards, up and back. And you'll feel that the tongue, it's kind of hard to tell where your tongue is. So to people, that feels like putting it on the roof of your mouth, where actually it's actually going backwards. Right? Because when you think your tongue, you think your tongue is just flat, straight thing. You don't realize that it curves back and down. Here's an exercise you can try actually that flip your tongue over like so, and then rub it. So does that make sense? Your tongue is like this, and now flip it over in your mouth, and then rub the top of your tongue with your finger. And you'll feel that your body can't really tell if your tongue is right side up or not. I want people to try that out. It's a trippy sensation. You're rubbing the bottom of your tongue, but your proprioception thinks it's on top. If people could try that out. So that's one of the interesting things that we're doing here is that you think your tongue is in one place, you think your body is in one way, and by the third module in the course, what I'm essentially doing is, people are asking, oh, how do I do this, or am I doing this properly? And yes, mewing wrong the whole life, it wasn't explained properly. Anyways, yeah. And you'll feel, so when you get the tongue, sorry, just to divert for a second, somebody has realized that that's probably the proper way to mute. Your sphenoid bone, I took the whole skull apart a little bit prematurely, but this is your sphenoid bone, and this is your maxilla with the tongue. And your tongue connects up into the sphenoid bone. There's pictures for this in previous live streams, and I'm going to get proper pictures for it as well. And the palatine bones as well. Your tongue connects up into those. And when you pull back like that with your tongue, you're pulling the sphenoid and the palatine bones and all those bones, and the temporal bones actually, because the styloid process also connects to the hyoid. So you're pulling the tongue, and you're not only pulling it in some direction, you're pulling it in precisely the direction that Sutherland and craniosacral therapists say that the tongue should move on the inhale. So in the meantime, I'll keep this under an hour. I promise I'm going to get through everything in under an hour, but this is worth exploring properly so that people can understand how the tongue is supposed to function. And on the inhale, you don't just keep it like that hard. You can do it as an exercise, but on the inhale, you pull the tongue back. On the exhale, it's not a big movement, it's just a small movement. It's a craniosacral movement. All the muscles are involved. And of course, in future, I'm not even sure if we're gonna have future live streams. I think what we're gonna do is future like Zoom calls type of lessons with members. So you can see on the screen here at the top right that this is where your tongue muscles all connect into. They connect into the styloid process. They also connect into the sphenoid. Different pictures will show different muscles. But this is even better because now you can see that it also connects with the temporal bone. So this bone rotates backwards and like that, according to craniosacral theory. And your tongue moving back on the inhale is enhancing and causing that movement. Let's see, tongue sphenoid, if we can get a good muscles. I tend to go long because I love talking about this, but your tongue connects up into the sphenoid as well. Those muscles, it's the palatine muscles, the tongue muscles, they all flex on the inhale. And somebody who in our community is a diver, and they've understood, and a lot of you probably can do this as well, that when you flex your palatine muscles, you can pop your if someone can drop the name of it in the chat, the eustachian tube, uh, you can pop that, so you can physically flex that area on the inhale. Okay, so I think that's enough diversion. Okay, so that the first two modules, am I showing my webcam? Yeah. Okay, so the first two modules, the first one is going to be the tension and the fascia that's in your body, so it's going to give you a really good feel for how interconnected your body is. So you can really get that proprioception, and you're going to find out stuff like your wrists and your hands and your hips and all that. You're going to find the tightness there. We're not going to focus in on that. Previously, I was trying to get people to go to the pelvis, but what we're going to really focus in on heavily is going to be the skull. That's where people want the correction. That's where the physical correction really kicks in. So the next part, the next module will be the whole body breathing, so that I'll at least go through every muscle. At the very least, I'm going to go through every muscle and show you how it works so that you can practice it yourself. I had said earlier that we're going to get the hypnotherapist is still fully on board. I reconsidered having her teach it though, because if she's not doing it herself, how effective will it be for her to walk you through a guided meditation of it? So what she's going to do, I think, instead is she's going to get you into proprioception of the whole body so that you can feel your body really well. And then I'll work you through the guided meditations to get the movement going. And then in the third module, which is where I'm at, which I think everyone in the mewing community, anyone who wants physical correction, and also that perfect, yeah, the carpal tunnel. That's what I was talking about. You're gonna notice stuff like that, the tension that's there, and how it can be released. Yes, awesome. Tennis elbow, stuff like that too. Um, the inner breathing is going to be pretty much only in the course though. That's not that's like the third stage is because a lot of people have gotten to the point of whole body breathing. Like I can get people to feel their SCMs and feel the breathing through the body that way and feel the skull bones move. And it's a leap to go inside the skull and feel the tentorium and all of that moving and the cerebral spinal fluid. The important thing is that Sutherland, Upledger, the cranial sacral therapists, and the Eastern traditions, this is what they were talking about. So by the end of his career, Sutherland wasn't even telling cranial sacral therapists that you should adjust the skull with your hands. He was basically saying take your hands off it and just watch the tide. Or like bring your patient into a point where they can watch the fluctuations inside the skull themselves, and that will cause a self-correction. Um, that's where everyone needs to get to in order to fully correct without any other devices. If you're doing other devices like the ALF or face pulling, mewing, whatever you like to do, you at the very least need to get the skull sutures open. Let me show something real quick. That this is major that people don't in the community have not had a good look at the skull, a lot of them. So like this is where your cheekbones, right? This is where they start, your zygomatic arch. This is your temporal bone. The temporal bone is not locked up against the parietal. It's overlapping, massively overlapping. You see that? They're not one-to-one with each other, and this is what Sutherland had noticed as well. And I'm going to try to really make sure we got a good camera view. You see that? You would think most bones, like these bones here, they just meet each other. Your temporal bones, which your SCM breathing is going to cause to rotate. This is where your SCM muscle. I apologize. It's hard to get an idea of what this is because it just looks like a white. I should probably get a colored one. But this is where your SCM muscle connects into. This is the mastoid process, and this is your cheekbone. This is where your cheekbone starts. So if this is your cheekbone, then your neck is here, and your SCM and your chest is down here. So your SCM muscle pulls on this. And the reason that it pulls on this and it can cause so much motion is because, look, the bone it's overlapping. This is a real model of a skull, by the way. This is a cast taken from someone who's deceased, so it's anatomically correct. The sutures don't meet. They look at that overlap. This is actually what Sutherland noticed. This is one of his first teachings, and this is where he got started with cranial sacral therapy, because he noticed the temporal bone. He said this is beveled. It's like the skull is like the gills of a fish, so it's almost as if it's supposed to meet and turn. And this is pretty much the only bone in the body that does that. The frontal does it as well with your parietals, but that's why the temporal bone is major. We're gonna get and on the inside of the temporal bone, that's where your tentorium cerebelli is all connected into. Now it's washed out. Hopefully it focuses. You can even see on the inside of the skull, because it is a cast, where those pulls happen. Right? So from the start, which is the tentorium cerebelli here, that goes over to this area, which is right about where your cheekbone starts. Comprende? So if this is tight, this area can't expand outwards. The bone can't even move further out that way if it wanted to. So we're going to get the whole movement restarted. We've taught enough with the SCM breathing to actually feel the movement. I do one-on-one sessions, and they've been 100% success rate so far, thankfully. Like I've never, it makes me nervous to do them because I'm still learning how to teach stuff. But like I've had 100% success rate so far with the one-on-one sessions. That by the end of them, the people can feel it throughout their face. Yeah, Sutherland is dead. Sutherland and Upledger. I think Upledger's dead as well. By the time they finished teaching, both of them said that essentially you have to let the body heal itself, and you can let it heal itself through this awareness and through this feeling. And that's what I'm experiencing, and that's what I'm teaching now. Yeah. So if those tentorium, if those all that's tight, you're not going to get any bony movement happening. It's just not going to expand. No. So that would be module 3. That's going to be the inner breathing. It's going to be, I think a lot of people here, like the community always manages to surprise me. So you might be able to get directly to feeling the inside as well. But by the end of module 3, 100% you'll be able to. And no matter what you're doing, if it's any sort of treatment, you need to have those skull sutures moving and you need to have this inner movement going. Otherwise, things are going to relapse. I'm really hoping to get you guys some physical results on camera and then scans after that real soon. But once you've experienced this, you'll know that this has to be fixed. Even if even if it was a complete fairy tale, which is not, but even if it was, once you get that feeling and that motion going and the spiritual benefits from this, then you'll be pretty much entranced as like this is how the body's supposed to function. Um, I can't wait. I can't wait until people sign up to this and they really get that feeling going. So like I found my current issue, the right side of my face and skull is underdeveloped. Now, typically, what we had been doing for a long time is trying to push up on the maxilla and push up on this area internally or externally. That's not where the issue is. The issue is here where the tentorium cerebelli like connects into this bone. And I can feel, because I can breathe with the tentorium, I can breathe with the fox and all that now. And when I breathe, I can clearly feel, clear as day, this is very tight. And when I put my awareness on it, what do I get? I get popping. I get popping and I get releasing and I get my sinuses in this area draining, which tells me that there's some movement going on, there's some opening going on, and I don't know how long that's going to take to actually correct, but I know that correction will be impossible unless that is resolved. And that's why you see a lot of relapse with palate expansion, I think, because you can expand this whole area out, but if the tentorium is tight, it just relapses back. Even surgery relapses for that reason, because those bones all hang off of this area. So if the tentorium's tight, it's just going to relapse. Of course, again, the entire case is going to be available to people that sign up for the course. The lifetime membership is going to end at the end of the month because I'm going to tell you why soon. But you need to get to this point essentially to be able to feel the tentorium moving. So for the first 2 parts, the whole body breathing, like the SCM and all that sort of stuff, let me know as much as I can how I can help. I'm going to keep putting videos out and doing like one-on-one sessions to get people feeling the skull bones moving, because when they move, the sutures at least get the growth signal to grow. But to actually pop the skull open, so to say, to let it fully grow to its genetic potential, you need to have that's the deepest layer, that's the deepest level. We're working from the outside in. We've gone from the muscles breathing, to the bones moving, the cranial sacral movement. Now we're going into the cerebrospinal fluid. It doesn't go any further than this. This is basically the final stop. When you get the feeling of the motion there, if you can feel your tentorium, feel your fox, like many accomplished craniosacral therapists do, then you can heal yourself that way. And at the very least, you'll never have to ask a question again about am I mewing properly, or anything like that. You'll be able to be on your own treatment plan essentially. Um, so this is a good time for me to just jump to a topic. Is that I am going to India, going to the east, so to say, because let's skip over, no, I keep saying skip. Let's go over to the fact that Sutherland's Fulcrum, this is where Sutherland and those cranial sacral therapists said that the tension in the body is mostly stored. And it's by adjusting and opening up this fulcrum that the body is able to realign into health. Now, they used to do it with their hands, and then again, by the end, here's the actual cadaver, so you can see what it looks like on the inside. This is the inside of your skull. This is your sphenoid bone. This is your frontal bone. If this is tight, nothing's gonna move. This needs to all be relaxed. So first we're gonna do it with the SCM breathing and uh, holographic breathing, or any sort of breathing that you can get the feeling of your skull bones moving. And then once you have that, since on the back of your head, the place where the SCM and the trapezius and all that connect, it's a one-to-one correlation. It's a one-to-one relationship. On the inside is where the falx cerebri and Sutherland's fulcrum are. So you can kind of flip it. You flip from the outside to the inside, and you can feel that whole skull area move and flex. And it doesn't go any deeper than this. Other than spiritually. Spiritually, this is like a great jumping off point because, again, Sutherland's fulcrum is where the straight sinus ends and where the falx cerebri is, and that's pretty much exactly where the pineal gland is. See, here's a funny thing. I've said this multiple times, and I'm glad I finally got a picture of it. You'll notice the fact that illustrations in biology textbooks are often contradictory. So you'll see the cerebellum is a completely different size here than it is here. And here's one where it's once again agreeing with us. That this is where Sutherland's fulcrum is, and Sutherland's fulcrum is said to be where the straight sinus and the vein of Galen is called. Where that ends is Sutherland's fulcrum. I haven't seen this in the cranial sacral books for some reason. Maybe someone's made the connection before, but that also just happens to be where the pituitary gland or the pineal gland is, aka what's known as the third eye in a lot of places. And then of course the pituitary gland is also located right above your spinobasilar junction. So with the SVJ movement and the craniosacral breathing, we're now hitting both of these glands. And I try not to tell people stuff that I feel only. I can tell you, when I tell you this stuff, I wait happily in the Discord and on the great work as well, for someone else to confirm it, and then I'm like, I knew it. But yeah, for the spiritual progress, this is immense, because it's bringing your awareness to it. Like we're bringing your awareness into the body, bringing your awareness to where there's tightness, and you can feel that your mind and your body are not separate, psychosomatic. And that is a really great awakening. That's a great understanding, because you can start to unravel patterns in your life, patterns in your your habits, your social patterns. All of that can be rewritten essentially. And that was in your muscles. Now, actually going into the brain itself, the central nervous system, and into those glands, and you're not forcing, you're just being aware of where it's tight and letting it go. And, well, let me say the physiological thing you're going to be able to feel is that your saliva production goes way up and your saliva starts tasting sweet. And actually, that leads into the bindu. So this was supposed to be the chakra that they say it begins the physical manifestation of the body, which is a direct line. So like you have your bindu, your pineal, your ajna, which consist of the third eye, essentially. And it just happens to be also where Sutherland's fulcrum is, the tentorium notch is, where your SCMs and all that connect up into. That's the area that we've been hammering for the past couple months now. And so they say that when that area is activated, you get like the nectar flowing. I won't talk about that on this live stream more. I won't go, I'll talk about it, of course, like I do give, I don't hide anything behind a paywall, but to really get the experience one-on-one and like to really get a full explanation that I basically guarantee by the end of the course you'll be able to feel the tentorium moving and really get deep. That's my guarantee for the course. And then when people can do that, then we'll have weekly meetings where we can talk about it and then people can show their changes. The mental changes are going to come first, but the physical changes have to be right around the corner. I know that because they're starting to pop open. And if it was just me saying it, I would say it with more doubt. But it's the fact that other people are noticing pops and cracks, and those have to indicate movement. So let's check out the general tab for. Okay, cool. Now, like I said, I am going out east. Um, I was quite serious when I said that this is what I do now. This is my life work. Um, I am leaving my job. I don't have a great plan, but I'm very confident about what it's going to be because if you've seen it in the Discord, I've talked about Sadhguru's book. I brought a lot of other spiritual teachings into this matter, and I think I have to go there in order to find people that have done this themselves and people that are more advanced level than I am and suss it out from them. And also being in India is also going to give me a lot more time to sit and meditate and practice and teach that to others as well. So that's going to be called The Great Journey. That's going to be a whole different YouTube channel. I'm going to link my Instagram and stuff like that. So just if you want to keep up with what I'm doing. Um, Again, like I said, this is a rewriting. I was not a risk taker a year ago. I was not, I would have been terrified. I never would have done it. I might have said that I'll do it and I never would have done it. Um, I just made the decision like 3 or 4 days ago and now we're going to India. Leaving the job, we're going to see what happens. My entire personality's been shifted and changed. Uh, it's one of the best parts of this, to be quite honest. The physical changes are coming and immense. Like the back pain's gone away. A lot of things have gotten better, but that is what I'm. That's one of the best benefits. So the life, because of this, ads are going to go back up on the great work. The ads are just going to be dental ads, stuff like that, whatever Google AdWords puts up there, because I need to fund living there somehow because I'm going to leave my job to go do this. And so the lifetime membership is going to end on at the end of October is when the lifetime membership is going to end. And again, like I put that out there so that anyone who has been in this sphere at all has a good chance to learn this sort of stuff. But I've been working with people that have brain injuries, working with people that essentially it's for the value that's going out there. I think the price is even still underpriced for what it's going to be at the end of October. Because I'm going to give it my all. And the bonuses, that's one thing I have to mention. So in the course, I'm going to put everything in the course, essentially. So the dental appliances, so the ELF, the AGA, BioBlock, MyoMunchie, everything I know about that, I'm going to put in the course as well. The guided meditations are going to be in there as well. I'm going to bring in people to talk about tapping and like generational trauma. I believe Martin's probably going to be involved as well with like holographic breathing because he's really into the cranial like fluid. Um, so hopefully he can help us out as well. I'd like Mike Mew to give us an idea of how to measure, like properly measure everything. And the biggest thing is going to be the group calls, is the fact that we can do this as a group. And as a group with my updates from what's going on in the East, I'll be telling everyone that what I've learned because I'm going to be approaching yogis. I'm going to be approaching anyone who's at an advanced level and learn from them and then immediately transfer that knowledge over to everyone else here. I'm pretty, you get pretty advanced. You get to the level of being able to see who's gotten a really good idea for this. And there's people like Brian Beijing and such. Um, so how do people with those real issues like brain injuries and meningitis, how do they respond to it? They've found that there is still trauma trapped in those tissues, that when they bring their awareness to it, they emotionally have a massive reaction that they didn't know was there. And you have to be gentle with that. But I think that is the sort of breathing and cerebrospinal fluid movement that'll help them heal as well. So that is why the price of the course is going to go up, because the amount of people that it could help seriously, because I think those soft tissue issues are the ones that are going to get soft tissue and mental issues and your life patterns in general. Those things are all guaranteed to improve like quickly. The physical process takes time. It takes about as much time as it takes for an adult to grow. Um, and also, the longest I've fasted is 2 weeks, and so I'm thinking of doing a challenge or something like that where I go on another 2 week fast to really speed up that 3000% human growth hormone. Um, I've already been through it once, eating basically nothing. Like there's something called bopper, and it's basically like I treated it like lambda bread from Lord of the Rings. Um, it's basically nothing, and I just have a few crumbs of that once every couple days. So I've done the 2 week fast, and I think I'll do it again now that the sutures and everything are open, and I'm really ready to do it. That'll probably have to be after I go to India, though. And that again, that is stuff we can do as a group. Now, oh, also breathing techniques, because I haven't taught any breathing techniques, so to say. I've just taught you how to find your breathing, right? Um, for a lot of people, they do have trouble meditating for long periods of time or to just stick with the breath or be aware of the breath. So I'm a certified Soma teacher as well. So that's going to be included in the course is like, you know how they say the pranayama has all these sort of benefits, like the decreased blood pressure, the lowered heart rate, the breath holds, stuff like that. Like I've taken a lot of those courses and I'm going to put it all in the course again. So my intention is that this course is going to be called the correction course. And everything about correction, there should be no doubt left in your mind whatsoever about what the correct way to do things is, and your proprioception of your own brain, your own skull, your own body by the third module and with our group teachings, your proprioception should have gone to such a level that you're now telling the group stuff. You're not wondering, like, am I doing it properly? Am I mewing properly? Where does my tongue go? You'll be so aware of your body and how it functions and the movement that you'll be like Sutherland. You'll be like Upledger. You'll be like those yogis who teach people this sort of thing. That's the level I'm trying to get people to. Yeah, all my sutures are now mobile. Somebody's asked that. Do I feel that all my sutures are now mobile? Most definitely. And that is one of the reasons that with that movement now really flexing and happening, now I can see why the tentorium is tight. Because if the sutures and the skull bones were not moving, then the tentorium is just fine, right? It's just sitting where it is. So, right, the tentorium is fine just like this. But now that those other bones are moving, the temporals especially, that's actually where we're going to really focus in on, is going to be the SCM and the temporals. And I think that the reason that the temporal bones are called that is because temporal means time. So it's kind of like a timekeeping. It is your breathing is like, that is the pace of your life. It's the temporal bone, the temporal lobe. And it's funny when you look at anatomy that they're like, where did the word come from? Nobody knows. They thought it might be because these hairs here grow white first. I don't think it's that. I think it's because um, there's a lot of esoteric meanings behind a lot of the names that things have been given. So the temporal bone is because that bone, as Sutherland noticed, is beveled like the gills of a fish, and that's the one that moves the most, like this, when you breathe in. And so we're gonna get the motion restarted there for everyone else. And for me, it is restarted, and that's why I've been able to notice that my tentorium is tight. Not just that the meninges are tight, but specifically which part of the tentorium is tight. And all I need to do is sit there, bring my awareness to it, and I start getting pops and cracks and movement all along here. How recent is this? I think I think one of the people ask like, where are your physical changes? That's because it's very recent. And so like I'm bringing everyone along as I go. I'm not holding anything back whatsoever. So hopefully we can get, that's the frontal bone. It's funny how they look the same sometimes, but let's see if the focus works this time. As we explain once more that yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is where your SCM muscles attach at the back of your head, right? So this is the where your skull sits, and your meninges are in here too, because your trapezius comes out here and everything like that. And you can see this ridge goes around to the side as well, and it goes into your temporal bones. And on your temporal bones, this is the mastoid process. This is the area that gets pulled by your SCM muscles. And this right here, the zygomatic process, this is where it starts. And this also gets pulled on your breathing with the holographic breathing. So your temporalis muscles, or rather your masseter muscles pull on this, your temporalis muscles go under this and connect up into the temporal bone, and it moves it like that as well. The really awesome part, the way it clicks together, I'm going to make it click in everyone's head, is the fact that it's not like, oh, this muscle does this and this one does this. When you look at it logically, when you look at it functionally, you see that, oh, so this, you're telling me that the SCM pulls this, which would rotate this way. Also, the temporalis comes in and pulls it the same way. And also, the masseter comes in and pulls it the same way. And also, on the inside, with the flexion, that would be opening up here, that works with how craniosacral therapy says that the tentorium should move. So the fact that it all logically and mechanically fits together, and the important part is that by module 3's end, hey Kralik, so by module 3's end, you should see this as more than mechanical. That's really the important part, because like module 1, I'm just going to get you to feel it. Module 2, you're getting into the mechanics of how it all moves. Module 3, you're moving beyond mechanics, and this is what Sutherland and Upledger and craniosacral therapy teaches, is that it's not a mechanical movement, it's motility. It's the bones and as if picturing like a cell breathing. A cell doesn't mechanically breathe. The whole thing expands and moves at once. It's a movement. It's an impulse that happens throughout the body. And so when Sutherland describes the sphenoid, he doesn't describe it as a mechanical movement. He says you can notice the mechanical movement, but it's not mechanical. It's a motility. It's a breath of life that flows through the body. And just observing that is what gets you that correction. If you want to boost it, okay, so I think I covered what I wanted to cover. I think so. So I'm going to the east to really study this, and I'll have a lot of time to focus on it. And I'm going to bring everyone else along with me on the ride for sure. There are other protocols to boost HGH. I'm not doing the fasting necessarily to boost the HGH or anything like that. I'm already pretty confident that this will work just as it works now. It's just a waiting game. I'm doing the fasting probably as a reason to, it's like a group activity to do. If people want to get more spiritually inclined, if you want to really feel your body, you really, really want to feel the depths of your body, fasting is a great way to do it because your sensations really move inwards. Your senses, the external senses, kind of shut down in a way. You're not dying or anything. And that's the reason I'll do the fasting too, is because I could do 14 days because I followed a certain protocol. You don't just stop eating. Like you have to get yourself into it in a certain way, and there's easier ways to do it, and it's a lot easier to do it with a group, of course. Um, so it's for spiritual reasons, but the spirit and the body are intertwined. So we're gonna open it up like that. Yeah. So if you're finding the course now, as we've said before, that's a good indication that you're ready for it. That's just my trust in this because when I first put out the idea that you can get your cranial bones moving with breathing with your sternocleidomastoid muscles, or even just posting the holographic breathing, I didn't expect people to pick up on it that quickly. So they picked up on it really quickly, and they could feel the movement and they can feel the popping, and a lot of people are showing their results and what they're getting. And so I think that once people have found this course, that means they're ready for it. And the biggest thing is that by the end of the course, that you will know how your body operates and functions. So I don't search stuff to find out anymore. Yeah, I've been in contact with Mike. Mike would be happy to work with us most of the time. He's very busy, but he'll be happy to work with us almost all the time. Um, so rather than looking to others for finding out how you should mew, what sort of treatments you should get, how your body functions, we're gonna take your awareness to the depths all the way to the craniosacral fluid so that you're fully aware of your body. If you want a treatment, you tell people what the treatment needs to be. And I think you're not going to need treatment after this because when you get the tentorium and all that loosened and opened up, your spine opens up, and we're going to see great effects from that. So I said I was going to keep it at an hour. We got an hour and 2 minutes. I hope you found this useful. There'll be more content coming soon. We got a backlog of content that I recorded interviews with people and then I didn't post them because I got to go to India now in like 2 weeks. I have 2 weeks to like reorganize my whole life. And I kind of did it on a whim. And that's also another reason I want to have these group chats and group sessions with people that get to that point because you're going to be able to see things happening at a very rapid pace in your life. I recommended the book Karma to people. Um, yeah, you know what? If once we start getting our effects and our movement going, I would tell Mike because Mike wants to know this stuff. Mike has not settled on his theory. His theory is different than John's, so um, yeah, he would be really glad to hear about this if we can get those proof. We can get that movement in multiple people, and also people's lives are going to change. If you're stuck in a certain patterns, if you have addiction patterns like I had, you'll watch those kind of just dissipate within module 1. But by the time you get to module 3, they'll just go out. I'll definitely remember to look up Tongue Labs. Okay, thank you everyone for checking on the stream. The stream is going to be up for a little while still, and I'll keep everyone updated. Um, can you give a quick recap of today's discussion? Yeah, you know what? I'll do that. So first off, there's 3 modules in the course. First is going to be the tension, fascia, emotion, life. You're going to be able to feel the tension in your body. Then the whole body breathing, which we're going to get your skull bones moving. And the skull bones moving is what's going to induce the sutures to grow and also stimulate the pituitary gland to get you the growth going. Now, you're going to find with that breathing that you can go even deeper because on the inside you have the meninges, the falx cerebri and the cerebellum. Or tentorium cerebelli and the fox cerebri, and those go all the way. That's the cranial sacral theory that Upledger and those greats talked about, and we'll get you to feel that yourself, so that you'll be a professional healer essentially at the level of Upledger and the people that develop those theories. The course is going to be it's planned out, and it's going to be all full of bonuses like you're gonna have to go back and check. But it's gonna. I'm leaving for India to the east so that we can get really deep into this by the end of the month, and that means the lifetime membership also ends at the end of the month. So hop in now. After that, the price is gonna go up quite a bit because I'm gonna start advertising, and I'm gonna build out the great work so that we get a lot more people in on this. Okay, I'll see everyone else later.